Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's summer is going very well. And I hope that you guys have all signed up for the summer reading challenge here at the library. And I just wanted to welcome you to a summer STEM challenge with me, Miss Jessica. Before we get started with anything, I just wanted to go ahead and share our word of the day with you today, which is journal. So if you go to Read Squared, either from our website or if you go through the app, you should be able to enter that word and you should be able to get 30 points towards your summer reading challenge just by attending this lovely program with me. So go ahead and go do that real quick. Today we're going to be making nature journals. So a nature journal is just like any other journal, except it's documenting your experience in nature. And how is this a STEM activity? Well, it is actually going to be helping you work on the most critical part of being a scientist, and that is working on observation. So recording what you see, what you feel, what you hear, all of these things, and being very detailed, just like scientists do. If you ask any scientist out there, they will tell you that the most critical skill of being a scientist is learning to observe the world around you. So what do you need to make a nature journal? Got one of two options here. Either you can come to the library and you can get one of these lovely packs that I've made up for you. That will include a pencil. There's a little pack of stickers, and there's also a crayon in there if you want to do leaf rubbings. There's a little journal in there. It's completely blank inside. And then it also comes with this sheet of paper here with some instructions and some ideas on the back. But if you can't make it to the library today, or if somehow we've run out of these packs, you can use any journal that you have at home. You can use any kind of supplies that you find at your house. Markers, crayons, colored pencils, a ruler could come in handy. Any journal that you can find. I recommend ones that don't have lines in case you want to draw, but if that's what you have available to you, that will completely work as well. So try and think of anything else. Glue is helpful. Tape, if you want to keep track of flowers or leaves that you find out in the world. So it's really completely up to you what you use in your nature journal. It's entirely what you want. It's your journal to do with however you please. Also, just a quick side note about nature journals. This is a great activity for any age, okay? Adults do this, teenagers, kids, even really young kids can start working on a nature journal. I know a lot of people get insecure about their drawing ability, but your nature journal has nothing to do with your ability to draw. Okay? It has to do with your ability to observe what's going on around you and just record that. So you don't have to do any drawings at all. You could take photographs, or you could, like I said, you could tape things into your journal. So don't feel like you need to be an expert artist to do a nature journal. And a lot of the activities that we recommend for a nature journal can be changed depending on what age group you're working with. So if you're just doing really young kids, you can start off with drawing and maybe forget some of the notes that we put in the journal. But for older kids, you could do a lot more research, or if you are an adult out there doing a nature journal, love it, you can also do whatever it is that makes you feel right in your nature journal. Before we go any further, I just wanted to go ahead and share an example with you of our nature journals. This is mine that I came up with. I did a little bit of decoration on the front of mine. You can decorate yours however you want. And when you open it, I started off with a quote from one of my favorite authors, J.R.R. Tolkien. He's the author of The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, if you guys have ever read those books. Or seen the movies. And then I have some stickers down there. This is the first activity that I decided to do in my journal. I have some leaf rubbings here. This is a really easy activity that you can do in these journals that it just comes out looking so cool. So what I did was I marked the date and time, good science, that I was finding these leaves. And then I obviously did the leaf rubbings. And then I have notes over here for where I found all of these leaves. So one of them was from the bush outside of my apartment. This one was from a tree that was right outside. And this one was from actually one of the little shrubs that's right outside my apartment. So if I go back and I look at this, I know exactly where I found these leaves. And that is part of the good science of doing a nature journal. The next thing I did here, just look at this side for a second. I actually went out and I found some flowers, and I could try to get up close there. So I actually took a little part of the flowers, these two, and I glued them into the nature journal. I kept track of once again, the date and time, and then I took some notes about them. So you can read in there, these are called coral bells, and I found the scientific name and I wrote it on there. And then down here, we have the coreopsis, and I did my best to do a drawing of the whole flower, but then I pasted in just a piece of it. Okay, and down here you can see I did a measurement of the whole flower, so I knew how big it would be in real life, because I think my drawing was obviously a little bit bigger than the real flower, so I knew and could keep track of how big that flower was for real. Now on the other side, I did a different kind of activity where I kept track of the weather throughout the day. So every 2 hours, I think it was, every 2 hours I looked out the window and I kept track of what was happening out there with the weather, and I also looked up the temperature down here and took a little bit of notes about what was happening. So we've got the time of day, I did a little drawing, we have the temperature, and then I took some notes about it. And once again, I have the date up here, so I know what date I was talking about. So that's just a little something that I've done in my nature journal, and give you an idea of what I'm looking for when I say that I want you guys to go out and try to make a nature journal. I've also going to put some other examples up here. Some people go crazy with their nature journals and they are gorgeous. Some people go a little bit more towards the note-taking aspect of things. But the most important thing is that you are exploring nature and working on your ability to observe what's going on around you. So now that you've seen a little bit of my nature journal that I started working on, I wanted to share with you a list of other activities that you can do in your nature journal. So if you can't make it to the library to look at this sheet that I've made up about nature journals, I'm just going to read off a couple of these ideas on the back here for you. There are so many things that you can do in a nature journal, and some of them are really fun. So just some examples here. Let's see, you could record the temperature multiple times a day and see how it changes. That is one of the activities I did in mine. You could plant a seed and then you can watch it over time and watch it grow. So every day you do a drawing of the same seed that you planted and keep track of the day that you're drawing it, and you can watch it over time as it grows. You could also record the number of birds that you see in an hour. Not everything has to be drawing. See, what do you think the world looks like underground? Who lives there? In this case, you're using your imagination, but also use your scientific mind. Really think about what you think is underneath the ground. What animals are down there? What kind of dirt? Do you think there are rocks down there, etc.? And then maybe you could go do some research afterward and you can see what's really going on down there. I know we have some really cool books here at the library that will show you exactly what is underneath the ground that you live in, and it might not be what you expect. So maybe check out some of those books. It says find an animal home and go draw it. So maybe you find a bird nest, or you find a little hole that maybe a I don't know, a snake or a little mouse lives in, and draw that. You could use different art materials to draw the same object. So your your observations might look a little different when you're drawing with a marker or a colored pencil. Go to one spot and record all of your senses that you are feeling. So what are you seeing? You could draw what you're seeing. You could write about what you hear around you. Could be like bird calls or traffic. Whatever you are hearing, record that down there. What do you smell? Maybe there's a stinky skunk nearby or something, ugh, and you smell that. Or maybe it just rained and you can smell the rain. Record that. Also, in addition to that, record how you feel. So not all observation has to be concrete. You could feel something when you go somewhere. Maybe you feel really content, like sitting next to a stream, and you just feel really good. Maybe there's a thunderstorm happening outside and you're feeling a little bit nervous about it. You can write that in your journal as well. You could draw something up really close, okay? Things look very different when you look really close to them. So maybe if you had a flower, okay, so you draw the whole flower as it is, but then when you zoom in, maybe on the middle of the flower, you'll probably see a lot of interesting things in there that you could draw. Oh, this one takes a little bit of time, but you could draw a tree, like we were talking about, in different seasons. So one tree is going to look very different in the summer versus the winter. You can use that one if you really stick to your nature journal. So that's just a couple of the ideas that are written on the back of this sheet. If you go online and you look up nature journaling, there are a ton of ideas that people have, and some of them are. So before I send you out in the world to go do your nature journal, I want to do one activity with you to kind of sharpen your observation skills. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to pull out your nature journal or any sheet of paper if you don't have a journal yet, and I want you to draw a flower. Just from your memory, just go ahead and draw a flower. So I want you to pause this video and just draw a flower. And when you're done, come back, okay? So I'll give you a second. Go ahead and pause. All right, welcome back. I hope you went and you drew a flower. In my experience, what a lot of people would draw is something a lot like one of these, okay? So you've got the flower with the center and then some petals around it, or you've got this tulip that has the 3 points on top. Now these are lovely flowers and I have nothing against them. But in our nature journals, we want to be as accurate as we possibly can. So the next step in this activity is that I want you to go find a real flower. It could be any kind of flower. The one that I brought with me today is this one, because I'm in the library and I don't have a real flower hanging around next to me. But this is the one that I'm going to be using. I'll look up really close. There we go. So what I want you to do, I don't want you to immediately draw whatever flower it is that you find. What I want you to do is I want you to sit and I want you to look at it for a little while. So we're using our observation skills, okay? I want you to ask some questions to yourself about the flower that you are looking at. So for my flower here, the first question that I would probably ask myself is, how many petals does it have? Okay? A lot of the time when people are drawing just a generic flower, they'll do like 6 or 8. But this flower, as you can see, has 5. Okay, 5 petals. And then I'm going to just continuously ask myself questions about this flower. So like, what color is it? What does the inside of the flower look like? So you see that middle, it's got another little star on it. And look at that, it has another 5 indentations here, okay? But if you notice, those indentations go straight through the petals, okay? There's also, I don't know if you can see it, but there's 2 little if you can see, I think you can see them. They're called stamens in there also. And then what kind of texture does this flower have? You've got these lines right here. I might also notice if there was anything that I thought was a little strange about it. So when I was looking at this flower, I noticed that there's a big gap right here. It doesn't look big enough for another petal, but if you look over here, these ones are much more close together than this gap right here. So just little observations like that. So go ahead, maybe take 5 minutes, 5 whole minutes to really look at your flower and think about its traits, essentially. So if anything that you think about, if you just think about a flower, you need to make sure that this flower actually matches that, because it might not, okay? So your original flower, if it had 6 petals, okay, but this flower, or whatever flower that you were drawing at home, might not have 6 petals. So you want to make sure that you are really looking at what you're doing, okay? I'm going to draw it real quick. We'll see what you guys think. I only have a pencil today, so I won't be doing color, but I'm going to try to draw this and you guys can see how good I was at observing the flower, okay? Give me just a second. Alrighty, so I just finished drawing my flower, so I'm going to show it to you. Remember, this is the flower that I was trying to draw, and this is what I did. All right, so you can see there, I went ahead and I put in the gap between those petals, and I also put in the star in the middle, the little stamen, and I also did my best to put in the stripes, even though that was kind of difficult with the lack of color that I had. So what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to go ahead and label it, right? So I don't even know what today's date is, but I'm going to put, oh yes I do, okay. And then it is about 10 a.m. in the morning here on the 18th. That's when I'm filming this. So I went ahead and I wrote that in the corner so I will know exactly what I did here. And then I'm going to go take some notes on here. So I'm going to say that I drew this while filming for STEM. Okay. So that way, when I go back, I can remember what I was doing. And I will probably cut out this picture and paste it in there on the side as well. That way I remember exactly what I was doing. That is part of good observation. And you'll notice that in nature journals, there are notes everywhere. People write everything that they can think of in there. So while your journal will have a ton of drawings and colorful illustrations, flowers, rubbings, any kind of thing in your journal, it should also come with note taking. So that just adds to the good observation, good science that you're putting into your nature journal. Now, before we go, one very last thing, I promise. I wanted to show you one of these books. So this is a whole series of books that we have here at the library. This one is called Animalium. It's actually, these drawings aren't old, but they're done in the style of drawings that were done in maybe the 1800s that people used for nature journaling. Before the days of photography, when we could just go out and take photos of everything that was around us and share them very easily, one of the most important parts of science was these artists that would go out and they would draw things that they saw. So if somebody from, I don't know, England went to India, most people weren't going to do that in their lives. They would have no opportunity to see anything that happened in India or think about any of the crazy creatures. So people would go over and they would do these really detailed drawings of things, and that's how people learned about them. So these are just based in that style. But I wanted to show you these turtle shells. just because I just made you do that activity where you're drawing the flower, I want to give you an idea of why that activity was important. So if I had told you to draw a turtle, I want you to imagine what you would have drawn, okay? And then here, look at all these different kinds of turtle shells, okay? Somebody went out and they actually drew all these different kinds of turtle shells. Now, I don't know about you, but I never would have imagined that there were so many different kinds of turtle shells out there. So it's very important that we learn to observe what's around us, because that's how we learn about different species of animals, plants, birds, all kinds of things. So I highly recommend that you come in here and check out some of those books. They are all in the oversized section, which means they're even more fun. They're huge, you know, but there's 4 or 5 of them. There's a dinosaur one, there's one about mushrooms, animals. They're really cool. Alrighty, everybody, that is what I've got for you today for nature journaling. The very last thing that I want to say is I just want you to know that your nature journal is yours to do with as you please. All of the ideas that I've given you today or that are in this packet are entirely optional, okay? The most important thing here is that you go out and you sit in nature and really work on your observation skills. However it is that you do that is entirely up to you, okay? So the most important thing here is that you just go out and you have fun, alrighty? Don't forget about Summer Reading Club, obviously. So whenever you guys want to sign up, or if you have earned a prize, don't forget to come into the library and pick that up. We'll be waiting for you. All right, so that's it. See you in a couple weeks for our next STEM video, and I'll see you then. Bye.